All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday. Jack Mtlante.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Truth be told, I'm floating on a cloud this morning.
Why?
It was my dad's birthday yesterday.
Ah,
So
happy to him.
yeah, the old man
Very
is
good.
getting a little older.
Good.
But yeah, he's on my neck about these grandkids.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the way he uses his birthday as an opportunity to like leverage you into having grandchildren.
His point was, look, I'm getting older. I'm not going to be able to play with your kids.
Yeah.
So you need to have them now.
Well,
while
you
I
should
can
say
still
to him,
run
just
around.
then stop getting older.
Yeah.
Don't put pressure on me. I got shit to do. I want to live my life. Yeah.
Thank you. I still have so many things on my bucket list.
You know, this thing comes up from time to time on the show, and we talk about, like, there's obviously, if you think about the great purpose of life,
Yeah,
a big part of that has to be to have children.
it has to be.
It's like it's on everyone's radar. Even people who've said I definitely don't want children.
Mm-hmm.
But it's harder for women because you got this window,
Yeah.
you know, and there's just nothing that science or nature or modern technology will abide that will stretch that window any wider.
Yes, unless you are a multi-millionaire like Janet Jackson. I think she gave birth at the age of 50 or something like that.
Well, you can, but you take a huge risk that the
Massive,
child's
yeah.
going to be mongoloid or retarded or
Mhm.
fucked up in some way.
Even yourself, you could fuck
Yeah.
yourself up.
Oh,
Actually.
yeah. There's a lot of danger. And I suppose they're those people who freeze their eggs.
Yeah.
You know,
They do the whole surrogacy.
they do that whole thing. So you, there are ways, but it's not great.
Yeah.
But I mean, plus, you don't want to be, and I've thought about this too, I don't want to be like a 70-year-old dad picking up his kids from soccer practice.
Yeah. I mean, Al Pacino had got twins not so long ago, and he's like in his 80s or something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Look, it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
But don't feel any pressure just because your dad says so.
No.
Say
He's an intelligent man, like extremely intelligent man. So
Well, you have to get it from somewhere.
yeah. So the things that he tells me, I really take to heart. And after last night, I'm actually starting to consider it seriously now.
Good.
Mm.
All right.
Time will tell.
You know what? He's just got to keep living. That's the point.
Yeah.
Say to him, yes, you can have grandchildren. Just stay alive and
Please,
stay healthy.
Please.
So many things to get into today.
Yeah.
I've got a whole list of stuff here, but I do want to remind you that tomorrow, as we usually do on a Wednesday, we've got a special guest. And I recorded this last week. Eric from Bold and the Beautiful, Eric Forrester.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? Yes, he is our guest tomorrow. John McCook, the actor who's been on that show for 37 or 38 years.
That's longer than I've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
So he literally raised some of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
I watched him on TV as Eric Forrester as a child.
Yeah.
And I am old ass.
Yeah, like.
So that'll tell you all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. That's some dedication for you. If you don't know, if you've never come across a better example of staying in the fucking saddle.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And that guy knows how to play a character.
Yeah.
Every day. 37 or 38 years. I can't remember exactly how long it is. It's almost 40 years.
Yeah.
And he's played the same character and he knows it inside out. And the audience love him. And he's one of only 2 actors who've been on that soap from day one.
Who's the other one?
The woman who plays Brooke. Catherine Kelly Lang.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's coming up tomorrow. You don't want to miss that.
Fantastic.
Loads of things to get to. You know, I see Jacob Zuma's in the news. He's been suspended from the African National Congress for refusing to vote for it and forming a rival organization. Like he gives a shit about being suspended.
He doesn't care. He does not care.
And I'll tell you what, the funny thing about the ANC at the moment is they're so unpopular and people hate them so much. And of course, there are conspiracy theories that actually this is just a way to get ANC voters back in the fray. Get them to vote for the MK party, and then the MK party just hands over.
The coalition, yeah.
They hand over their power essentially to the ANC after the election. And there may be some validity to that. I don't know. It's too early to tell what's going on. And if they are hoodwinking their voters, that just shows you how dumb their voters are, which again plays into the fact that maybe they shouldn't have a vote in the first place. But we'll get to that discussion later. At this point, I'm looking at it and I'm saying this old man is angry
Mhm.
and vengeful,
Mhm.
and he has every right to be, because the way he sees it, and I know lots of people, it's very en vogue at the moment to hate Jacob Zuma,
Yeah.
right? Has been since he was, the last year of his presidency, let's say.
In fact,
When the whole country eventually woke up, oh, this guy's not great for us. And I'd been saying this for 10 years?
I think the moment the word Gupta became part of our everyday, language, that's when people were like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this might not be our best option.
Right.
Mm.
But he's got reason to be angry. Think about it. He's suddenly had to take the fall for everyone else in the ANC who's corrupt, and that means everyone else in the ANC.
Mm-hmm.
He's reviled and hated by a certain segment of the population, but he is absolutely loved. And you may think this is outrageous and crazy, but there are people in KZN who would die for Jacob Zuma.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
There's no one in South Africa who would die for Cyril Ramaphosa.
Nope.
No, there isn't.
Not one.
You could say what you want. Say what you want about Ace Makashule, Cyril, Nomvula Mokonyane,
Bathabile,
Sisulu.
whoever.
Nobody cares about them. No one's going to die for Thabo Mbeki.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
Nope.
No one's going to die for any of Nelson Mandela's grandchildren. Not a one.
No.
Them. In fact, everyone in the world sees them coming. They're like, look after your wallet.
Yep.
But this man, and you can hate him as much as you want, right? I hear from people, and it's weird. There's this coalition of people. They don't know they're a coalition, but it's like white liberals who feel like he's betrayed them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's people who are not Zulu who feel that he's a tribalist, who are Tswana, Pedi, Sotho, Swazi, whoever.
Yeah.
Those people are very angry with him in ways that also doesn't make sense. And then there are people who feel like he's the vessel into which we'll pour all of our negative feelings, because if we can blame him, we don't have to blame the ANC.
Yeah.
So it's this.
He's become some weird scapegoat.
Yeah, correct. And all these people I've just described now, and some others who hate him too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I love him. Don't get me wrong here, because you know how the comment section goes. Oh, you obviously, if you're saying this, you support Zuma. So I'm not saying that. Just listen carefully to what I'm saying, right? Otherwise, your vote should be taken away as well. There are all these groups that hate him.
Yeah.
But there's a huge number of people in this country who love him.
True.
And those people are passionate beyond belief. They're not like, we're going to have to, we feel we have to vote because we've got a business arrangement with the ANC where we get government spend and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying corruption, but just they've got a business arrangement with the ANC. And a lot of people in business in this country have that situation because the biggest player in the economy is the government.
Definitely.
But Jacob Zuma's got every reason to be pissed off. He's like, I didn't do all of it. This machine was already suckling on the teat of corruption long before I came along.
Yeah. Fikile Mbalula admitted to as much recently.
Yeah, right. And people like Fikile is like, oh no, Jacob Zuma's the bad guy. Because then don't look here while we're stealing money. And right now, while the till is open, we're taking money out. Look at him. Old man get Getlekiza.
He made us lie about the pool.
Right.
And
so there could be two things going on here at the same time. You got to be able to chew, walk, and gum at the same time. Chew gum and walk at the same time. And there could be an argument made for any vote that goes to the MK parties actually just a vote for the ANC, because they probably will come to an arrangement after the election. Maybe even worse, that the ANC, the MK party, and the EFF come together after the election in some sort of coalition, because then we are truly fucked.
Yeah.
Truly.
I think the latter is more likely to happen.
It's a very frightening proposition.
Yeah.
And if that isn't enough to get you up off your ass and voting for anyone except those three,
I don't know what else will.
I don't know what is.
Speaking of voting, we are going to hit the road today.
Yes.
As part of the VVIP Roadshow. There we go.
That's right. The VVIP is the Voters' Voices in Politics. You're wearing the shirt now. That's one of the shows we've launched as part of the podcast party, which is I mean, this is really around the elections. And one of the things that we'll do with the podcast party today is Democracy 101 after 7 o'clock. We'll be talking to the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, once more, find out a little bit about them. And today, precisely how the elections themselves work. Who funds the parties? How does the operational part of the elections work?
How long will the ballot box, the ballot actually be? How many parties are going to be on that ballot?
Right, because that's another thing. There are 1,000 parties that nobody cares about, that we've got to throw some of these people off of there.
Honestly, we do.
I'm not, people say democracy is so wonderful. It really isn't. I'm not saying it's the worst, but it's definitely not the most optimal situation.
I feel like I wish we could put all of their manifestos into like some sort of a algorithm, and all of them that match just become one party. We'll end up with maybe 3 political parties.
Yeah, exactly. Fundo says, just Google the Umkhonto we Sizwe party. You'll see the amount of people and cars at his rallies. It's insane. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Very powerful.
And so don't underestimate him is what I'm getting at.
That I think that would be the dumbest thing we ever do.
So the ANC, though, doubling down, they say they're suspending him for making the Umkhonto we Sizwe party. So now, okay, we've got to hold them to this. And their voters, if you're an ANC supporter, I don't know why you'd be listening to this show if you're an ANC supporter, because all I do is beat you up. But if you're an ANC supporter and somehow you keep coming back to this show, God bless you.
Yeah.
But now you've got to realize, like, if they line up with the ANC, Umkhonto we Sizwe, lines up with the ANC after they've been treated like this, then you know you're being played.
Yeah.
Then now you have to admit, and I'll play this clip after the election if it happens. They've just suspended him, Jacob Zuma, from the ANC.
Wait, let's mark the date.
For forming the rival organization, the Umkhonto we Sizwe party. And they've said that he is no longer allowed to be in the ANC. So if he cozies up to them or they cozy up to him after the election, then you're an idiot for having fallen for this. Okay?
Yep.
G's in studio, who's the guest today, says Snipes. Well, as I mentioned, we've got 2 people from the IEC coming in for Democracy 101 a bit later on, Snipes. And we have a very interesting guy called Jonathan Gerber who's popping in as part of the Windows seat this morning, which is what we do with travel.co.za. And he's got an interesting organization he started, which is actually doing good work called TAG, the Travel Assignment Group. And we'll find out exactly what they do in just a short while. Patrick says, I think the MK party will influence KZN, i.e. it was an ANC EFF versus DA IFP, no other province in a couple of points. Okay, well, even so, KZN is our most populous province, so we should be very interested in what happens there. And it is up for grabs.
It is.
You know, it used to be a very solidly IFP province in the first elections, 1994. The IFP have slowly lost support in almost all parts. Then they started regaining it in some parts of KZN. You know, the idea of Zulu and ethnic nationalism there was a big part of that.
Yeah.
The traditional rural vote versus the urban vote. But really it is up for grabs. I mean, it's going to have to be run by some sort of coalition. And the MK party, the Umkhonto we Sizwe party, with Jacob Zuma as their figurehead, even if he's not the leader, is going to steal a lot of votes from a lot of other parties.
And I think the passing of King Goodwill Zwelithini cannot be understated here.
Yeah, because the Zulu monarchy has lost a lot of cred.
Yes, it has.
I don't, this Mr. Zulu, the king, doesn't seem like a bad guy.
No.
He doesn't seem like he's actively trying to disentangle and de-establish the Zulu monarchy. But I do think that all of that fighting over the succession and the court battles and everything, what it's done is devalued it. It's made it seem a bit trashy, if you don't mind my saying.
It's turned it into politics.
And the one thing a monarchy can't afford is to look trashy. Otherwise, people are like, well,
yeah,
if you call yourself a king, but you're squabbling in court the whole time, trying to get a judge to decide whether or not you're the king, then you're not the king.
Yeah, it doesn't hold water anymore. Right.
Yeah. Slippery Pickle has a song that goes, "You've got an uncle in the furniture business, Ramaphosa." I think that has to do with his sofa.
Yeah. And what a rookie mistake. Like when I heard that, when I first heard that story, I was like, okay, wait,
So
I
cheesy.
can understand you having foreign currency in your house, but
Cheesy.
in the couch, my guy,
So lame.
in the couch?
Even Mobutu Sese Seko, who was an over-the-top dictator, disgusting man, abused his people, put the Democratic Republic of Congo, which was that stage still called Zaire, put it in the doldrums in so many ways, ruined their economy, raped it just like Leopold II of Belgium had done just a short while before. Took all that money. Even an evil dictator like Mobutu Sese Seko, at least knew to put his money in a Swiss bank account.
Is that too much to ask?
Cyril doesn't even do it. He's like, oh no, we'll just stuff this into the cushions. Like a spaza shop queen,
Is there space under the mattress?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what are we doing?
It's just like, we've got such parvenu leaders. They're just so unused to anything sophisticated. It's just unbelievable.
And I think on some level, they genuinely believe that the South African public is that gullible.
Well,
like we'll just sit there and just believe it.
There are going to be, listen, Jack, if we're led to believe that the polls have any validity whatsoever, the polls are showing that the ANC will get somewhere between 40 and 50%. I've heard slightly lower. I've heard one or two that are slightly higher, but not a lot. But let's say 40%.
For the most part, yeah.
Still means that of the registered voters, 40% of this country, almost half, are stupid enough to keep being abused. We talk about GBV. On a philosophical level, there is no difference between the woman who gets beaten and keeps going back to the husband expecting him to change. He never will. And someone who votes for the ANC expecting them to get better. They never will.
They never will.
There's something about this that we like being abused. There's something about being South African that we, and I mean the ANC voters in South Africa. I don't mean the rest of the people, because clearly the ANC voters are masochists. They
love the pain.
They want to be treated. They want to see their country, their economy, their opportunities, their own lives go like this. And on that level, I want to just relate something that you brought into the show this morning, which we've got to talk about. And this is Serena's open letter to the president. Now, I'm no stranger to open letters to the president, but tell us about this.
So I came across this amazing lady, Sunflower Serena, on X or Twitter, and she posts like a bunch of amazing ideas. Sometimes she points out problems, but what's great about her is that she points out the problem and the solution. She's not one of those people that just sits on a soapbox and complains the entire time, right?
Got you.
So there's a paragraph of her open letter that I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts on. She says, the challenges facing our nation are indeed daunting, but they're not insurmountable. Surely, if you want to retain the African National Congress as the ruling party of South Africa, don't you think that you could do so with bold and decisive leadership? Surely you want to restore faith in those who held you in high regard when you entered office. Surely you want to rebuild South Africa into a country that is respected, prosperous, and just. We know that if you concentrated on supporting the people of South Africa and rebuilding our country, you would make history. Do you not want that? I think that is the most important question.
She's leveling this directly at the president.
Right at him. And I think it's a question that a lot of us have kind of stepped over. A lot of us didn't consider this. I've actually got a friend in Pretoria who's of the serious opinion that Cyril Ramaphosa was delivered to put the final nail in the ANC's coffin.
He's like a what do they call him? Counter-revolutionary.
Exactly. His job was to show up and
fuck them up.
And basically put them to bed.
You see, I do not understand. And she points to something which I think is really valuable here.
Yeah.
Who is against prosperity?
That is such a good question.
Because the ANC's policies are incontrovertibly opposed to prosperity. They do not. There are a couple of things that you could press buttons on right now in the economy, and it would instantly change our trajectory from a downward one to an upward one. Quickly. Labor laws, property rights, scrap the minimum wage.
Mm.
There are a couple of things we could do right now. Right now. They could enact them immediately while they still have a majority, because you just need a simple majority for this stuff, and the other parties would back them.
So you don't think it's a problem of implementation? It's the actual policies that they have in place?
They don't desire to change things for the better. They don't care about people.
Yeah, and we've got 30 years of evidence for it, right? It's not like we're just sucking our thumbs and
suddenly we've turned on them. No.
Yeah, no.
All the evidence that you'd like to see.
Yep.
Oh, and I'm pleased that this Serena, I like the sound of her.
She's amazing.
Does she just do letters, or does she do videos?
She does videos. She does comments. How
do I find her? Let's
at Sunflower Serena. So it's Sunflower SRINA.
SIR.
Sorry, SRINA.
SRINA. Serena.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Fantastic.
And I love the fact that right under her handle, she just writes no DMs. Like, she's not about that life. And you can see from her following that it's not just me who finds her fascinating. She posts unbelievable things, really mind-opening things, the type of conversations that all of us should be having, not just in the corners of Twitter. And then, like, just wherever we are in our daily lives, we should be engaging in critical thinking and pointing out some of the problems that we have. Not only that, but also coming up with solutions, which is something I enjoy about her. It's not just about making noise that, oh, shit, this sucks. No, here's a plausible solution that we could use.
Well, the solutions are there, and then it's not hard to find them. People all standing around going, oh, I wish we could find a way out of this mess. There are obvious answers that can be answered.
True.
I mean, obvious questions that can be answered. There are obvious things we can start doing right now. We're actively choosing as a country not to go down that path.
Yep.
And I blame our leaders.
I remember, you remember I keep saying, I don't think South Africans are mad enough.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Tabo says, I think it goes back to the violent past of the country. An abused child will probably be the abuser or susceptible to abuse. It's the DNA of the ANC voters. Look at the age of the people who vote for the ANC. Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting take.
Muzikozwai always says we've got to wait for that generation to die, but we're out of time.
We are out of time.
There won't be much of a country to save if we don't do it now.
Basically, half of the globe is voting this year.
Mm-hmm.
And with all of the things that are going to change, we need solid leadership moving forward. And if we miss this opportunity to find people that are going to steer us in the right direction, we might find ourselves in a whole heap of shit.
Well, I want you to watch this video to show you the quality of our leaders. Try not to laugh, because this is a serious thing. This was sent to me on Instagram by one of our listeners. But take a look at this. It's not edited to make this person look bad. This is an actual exchange that happened in either one of the provincial legislatures, or I can't remember which one it is, but take a look at this. These are leaders in the Republic of South Africa. These are people who've received enough votes to be given an important role like Speaker.
Honorable Delegate, I now motion without notice for notice with motion. I would like to call those members who like to do motion. Yeah, with notice. Motion on notice.
Chair, what's your notice? Is it motion without notice or notice without motion?
Motion without
notice of a motion.
Notice of motion without notice. No. Sorry, honorable members, we are on motion. We are on notice of motion. Which one? Yeah. Not notice of motion.
Are you sure, House Chair?
We're on notice of motion. Notice of motion. Honorable members who are on notice of motion.
You can use a lifeline.
You can use a lifeline.
This is not 2 minutes, huh?
Honorable
We
members
can
who are on step number 6.
okay.
Notice of motion. Step number 6.
Mm.
Now she's proud of herself. All right, so that's what we've got. Those are the kinds of people that we're expecting to enact laws. And then we want the people of South Africa to follow those laws, knowing that the leaders we've elected are capable, intelligent, thorough, and that they have their heart in the right place. Well, can't even decide the order of those words and what those words mean when your whole job is around what those words mean.
Gareth, the problem is you gave, excuse me, you gave a notice without motion. That's the problem.
And a motion without notice.
Yeah, that's the issue.
And then a motion of notice without motion.
Yeah, and I would like to call a point of order because we need the motion before the notice,
and you
so
know
that
what,
we can notice the
there are
motion.
going to be a bunch of people who will say, "Oh, but you know, English isn't her first language." That is such nonsense because this person is paid to be speaker. They are paid over and above their salary as an MP or an MPP or whatever it is. You're paid to actually run the house.
She's paid to be the speaker.
And she cannot speak.
I mean, come on.
You
can't make this shit up.
I don't know what to make of this.
You actually can't make it up. And I think
Elon says, just remember, English is not our home language. The average South African speaks about 3 to 4 languages. Well, then tell them that you're not going to do this in English because you can do that.
Exactly.
We have these 11 official languages, but she's chosen to embarrass herself by
English.
attempting English. And don't use that excuse. This person is actually unintelligent. It's not a person who has linguistic limitations. She is unintelligent. She does not know why she's there.
Which is a different argument.
She's not sure. Is it a motion? Is it a notice? Is it a notice of a motion? Is it a motion of a notice? Is it a motion of a notice that is not a motion? You can't make this up, Elon. I'm sorry.
And the fact that she holds that position without understanding just that little phrase.
Imagine doing this in any other job.
You'd be fired.
Imagine you're at a call center, okay? Let's just take away the fact that this person is an MP and a speaker of some kind. If you were in a call center on minimum wage, trying to sell people insurance or God knows what, and you couldn't string a sentence together like that, you would not have the job.
You wouldn't.
You would last a day and you would be fired. And rightly so.
I'd actually be surprised that you got the job in the first place.
You have no utility in a call center.
If you really
cannot put your thoughts together into a comprehensive sentence.
Seriously.
Unbelievable.
It's like putting a paraplegic in a foot race. It's not happening.
Right. So anyway, I don't understand. I really don't. When I see that, part of me is amused beyond belief, like I'm laughing.
Sure.
But a huge part of me is deeply concerned.
And as sad, we should. As we should be.
This is what we've got, right?
Because I think for whatever reason, this country on some level does not have any respect for competence.
No.
And as a result,
we've been told our policies have all been legislated on the basis that merit is less important than representation. It must look good. All we're doing is performance art. Like just window dress it properly. And merit and competence will come afterwards. And they don't. They do not follow in that direction. What should happen first is merit. And then you will find talented and brilliant people who will represent and be diverse.
There you go.
But if you don't have merit up front, which the ANC's never believed in. They believe in cadre deployment, which is the opposite of merit. That's what you end up with. You end up with a speaker like that who just basically is
There is a cacophony of jabberings at that corner. Please come to silence.
You see, that's what you get. Cacophony of jabberings.
That's exactly it.
Apparently, our new driving license cards, which were initially expected to launch by March 24, that's this year, face delays. The procurement of the required printer is still pending. Now, do you remember that Fikile, when he was Minister of Transport, he told us this printer was being ordered. It was coming. So now the new Transport Minister, Sindisiwe, Chikunga, cited complexities in the tender evaluation process. Oh, really? There are complexities. I wonder why. Only reason a tender process is complex is because
Someone's not getting paid what they need to get paid.
or you're trying to prevent, with all the possible things you can, so much red tape, trying to prevent corruption. But it doesn't just happen.
Mm-mm.
So anyway, apparently there's a compulsory site inspection that has to happen. The tender is expected to be finalized at the end of the 2023 financial year. After securing the printer, a trial period is likely before the rollout of the updated cards. The new design incorporates. So you know what? Just drive. Don't worry about your
Yeah.
card. Just drive.
Just drive.
Break the law. It doesn't matter. What they're showing you by their incompetence around this machine, again, competence,
Mm-hmm.
is that actually you don't need the card. Why bother? So a lot of people who are waiting for their driver's license cards and have gone and dutifully, as good citizens, stood in a queue, got their license renewed, waiting for their card.
Played their part.
Played their part.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are sitting at home waiting for that card to be ready for them so they can go and collect it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of expectation placed on the part of the citizen here. But nonetheless, when it comes to government fulfilling their responsibility, they don't. And therefore, a lot of good people who want to follow the rules and be good citizens are going to say, actually, I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want a card? If everybody who isn't fulfilling their obligations as a citizen, the crooks, the people who don't have a license, the people who never have a license,
Mhm.
if they just can say
Drive
to the
around.
policeman, well, your printer's not working, you can't arrest me for not having an updated license,
Yeah.
which is what you can do,
Yep.
then why should anyone bother? So why bother with the rules? Throw them out.
And you know the lackadaisical approach that they have to things.
Why bother with a license?
Yeah. Why give a fuck?
Why bother? We
Why?
know that the whole system is messed up and
Yep.
rigged. So if you slip the guy 100 rand at the driving license center, you'll get a license.
There you go.
So why are we putting up with this charade? Just stop it. Just accept that this whole country, you take your life in your hands when you go on the roads.
Yeah.
Just accept it.
Yep.
Learn evasive driving
Mm-hmm.
so that you can do the best you can in the circumstances that are thrown at you. And don't worry about the rules. I'm telling the people of South Africa who listen to this show now, don't bother with any of this.
In fact, get some advanced driving lessons. That way you
Right.
can get away when you need to get away in a huff, and
Right.
you'll be nice. You'll be
There we go.
sorted.
There we go.
Mm.
Correct. Snai says they're very quick to offer you a temporary driver's license. I was there to renew mine last week. Luckily for me, I have a UK driver's license. I'm using that at the moment. But why do you need any of it?
Why do you need any of it, actually? Come and think about
Elon
it.
says, I have not had a driver's license for over 5 years. I'm pretty sure it's expired.
That's hectic.
Yeah.
Hectic.
Most South Africans probably have a picture of Nelson Mandela on their licenses.
Yep. I imagine some people still pull out their green ID book as their driver's license. And when you think about like some of the condition of some of the taxis that we see driving up and down the road, it's pretty clear that the Metro Police officers aren't doing their job. It's pretty clear.
I used this example the other day. When you pull up to a robot, a four-way stop, and you see the light is red, the only thing that stops you from ignoring the red light is the understanding that the other side is green and that those people are going.
Yeah.
And you know, if you cross while it's red for you and it's green for them, there's a high likelihood that you will be hit
For sure.
or that there'll be an accident and someone will be hurt very badly,
Mhm.
if not killed. So we've got an arrangement. The red light means you stop for a bit, we'll go. The green light means now you can go and we'll stop. But once people stop following the rules, once you can see that the driver's license thing is a scam,
Yep.
and once you realize like there's no advantage to following the rules, when you realize that the people who are on green will do what they want anyway, and the people on red will do what they want anyway, then you approach a traffic stop with anarchy in your mind and you go, I must look for a gap. I must
Mhm.
try to read that person's feelings. It's not optimal,
Yeah.
but once the rules have been undermined, there's no point in following them.
Yeah.
In fact, you're an idiot if you sit waiting for the robot to change and it never does.
There you go.
Right?
That's
and
very-
you're an idiot if everyone else is not following the rules and you think you're still being a good person by doing it.
Exactly. In fact, you'll be lucky if you find the robot working.
So let's just accept that
Every
With-
intersection is a 4-way stop. You'll figure it out on
and,
your own.
and you don't need a driver's license.
Yeah, you don't.
So there we go. 100 Rand for a license. That's cheap. Where, says Steve? It's cheaper to pay the fine than waste my day in a line. That's also a good point because, they've made it so difficult.
Yeah.
That
But when
it's
they
not
want
worth it.
those fines, they'll come get it.
Well, you don't pay those either.
Yeah.
No,
The middle finger to
I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing falls apart from there, right? Like the whole Enatus, which we were told was a big thing,
Some great.
all of it you can ignore. If they start messing up at the driver's license level, which again, this is not the fault of any South African citizen. You can
Not
call
at all.
You
Yeah.
can call us lawless and capricious and ill-disciplined. You can call us that, but we're only like that because we know we can get
It's
away.
the
with it.
cards we've been dealt. Seriously.
It's where we can get away with it.
Yeah.
So you-
I mean, they sometimes set up these roadblocks where they check your tickets and all this stuff. It's like, but what are you actually going to do about it? Do you expect me to pull that money out right now and pay you? I don't have it right now. What are you going to do? Arrest me? That's not
write me
happening.
the ticket, and then as soon as you drive away, you crumple
Just
that up and you
throw
throw
it
it
out.
There we go. Not
Goodbye.
out on the passenger seat, because otherwise
Oh,
we're
yes.
littering.
No littering.
We don't need to add to the trouble.
There you go.
So don't add to the trouble, but certainly don't follow the rules that are no longer going to give any advantage to society.
So let's keep the country clean, but
Let's at least try that.
do
Let's at
whatever
least-
you want.
Because at least that has to do with human dignity and your personal
Yeah.
dignity. Like if you're throwing shit around like a zoo animal, then
That's problematic. Yeah.
that's a bad thing.
Terrible.
Don't turf your feces at all the other animals. But
Yeah.
But this is something that's really, it's occurring to me more and more that the thin veneer of people acting in a civilized society in lawful ways towards each other, once that veneer is rubbed off and people can see that the system actually is no longer delivering any value to them, why would they follow the rules? If this printer and the Minister of Transport can't get their act together, if the Department of Transport wants us to follow the rules and get these driver's licenses, which we have to pay for and we
Yep.
have to renew every 5 years, God knows why every 5 years, it should last for the whole of your life.
Yeah. Like, do you lose
don't-
your driving
you
ability
forget
somehow?
to drive somewhere in
Somehow.
between, and if you have a traumatic brain injury or you've fallen off a step ladder or something, then you obviously lose the ability to do certain things.
Of course.
So you have to renew those things or not,
Mm.
as the case may be. But as for the rest of us, if you could still see, if you can still hear, if you can still use your limbs, no reason why you'd need to
Just
update
drive.
your driver's license.
Yeah. It doesn't
right?
make sense.
Anyway, it's a money-making scheme. So now we look through it.
Mhm.
We can see how transparent it is. Why bother? Do I hear any arguments to the contrary?
No.
Don't think so.
Nope.
Culler says, I had a screaming match with a debt collector for TV licenses
Oh.
yesterday, threatening to blacklist me, not because of unpaid TV licenses. It is paid, but because of the handover fees that are still due.
What the fuck is a handover fee?
This is the law firms, in inverted commas, because I don't think they're real law firms, that handle the debt collection for the SABC.
So
So-
that they can continue giving us rubbish television.
Because you're expected to pay. This is what you do as a citizen. You're expected to help incompetent, useless organizations that do nothing for us, like the SABC. And I think those days are over. We don't have money. Do you have extra money to give the SABC
Hell
so they
no.
can churn out shitty TV?
Hell no.
No.
Over my dead body.
Right. Snai says, I'm with Gareth in this one. Don't pay your fines. Wait 2 years and they'll be gone. This is how the incompetence of our government works for the citizens. Yeah, I mean, accept that you're in a country where these things don't work
Mhm.
and live by those rules.
Yep.
And anybody who says this morning that we're basically preaching insurrection, no. We didn't make the situation. The situation is what it is.
We're just saying make the best of it.
You got to make it work for you.
Yeah, if there's a loophole, exploit it. Why not? I mean, the people in government surely don't have a problem with doing that. Why can't we? And since they are the quote unquote leaders, we'll follow their lead.
So guess what, guys? ANC people, this is what incompetence gets you.
Yep.
If you're still wondering who to vote for in the next election, that's all I'm going to say. Because really, that's what it boils down to. And that
Yes.
election is coming up fast on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
You've got time.
Yes, you do. And I hope you make the right decision.
Isn't it a registration weekend
This weekend, yes. Friday and Saturday. I think the 3rd and the 4th. There you go. So people, you must go out there and register to vote. And let's go out in our numbers. Let's make sure that at least we're on the voters roll. When the day is finally announced as to when we'll be voting, then we go out in our numbers and vote. And I personally am not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm going to tell you who not to vote for. The guys that we've had for the past 30 years, that's the one we do not vote for.
Yeah. So there's a story in the UK at the moment. They are banning disposable vapes. As a part of a plan to tackle the rising number of young people taking up vaping, the UK government says. Measures will also be introduced to prevent vapes from being marketed at children and to target underage sales. So again, you don't change the behavior of young people, you change the marketing and advertising.
There you
Unbelievably stupid. And marketing and advertising have an effect, sure, on behavior. They're not completely unrelated. But how about addressing the children? How do they get out scot-free from this? How do the parents get away scot-free from this?
I actually wanted to bring up the parents because I was having a conversation with a couple of my friends the other day, and I wanted to find out, are we the bitch-ass parents or are we raising bitch-ass kids? That's what I want to know. One of the two. And so from my point of view, I think we're the soft parents. Like, for some odd reason, kids are allowed to be little tyrants and get their way all the time, as if telling them no is going to, break their world into pieces or something like that. Like, they're not that soft. These kids are not soft. Kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. And if we were to give them things that actually fortify them and make them a lot tougher, we'll be better off. So if you've got a kid who's walking around with a vape pen, I suggest you snatch it out of his or her hand and explain to them exactly why they can't have those things.
So I saw at the garage on Thursday last week when I was there to buy a coffee for Pumi and I, that there's this huge big bin outside the front door of that you throw your used vapes into. Apparently they can be recycled. I don't know.
Some shit like that, yeah.
Something like that. I mean, and the thing was full. So I'm assuming that there are just hundreds of people who are actually, these are the ones who are dropping it into the recycle instead of just throwing it away with the rest of their rubbish. Because you can imagine how many vapes are being thrown away in the normal rubbish and never recycled.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gives you an indication of how big that market is. I see a lot of young people smoking these vapes. And I mean like people in their early 20s or younger.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, you see, I'm not in favor of anyone banning anything like smoking, drinking. People are going to do that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And if they're not vaping, they'll be doing worse.
Yeah.
So address the behavior. Talk to young people. Tell them what popcorn lung is. Explain what that is. Then maybe they'll stop vaping.
Yep.
But if they're not prepared to take their own health more seriously than their vaping, then why would they take the government seriously? This is what I have to ask Rishi Sunak or whatever his name is, this Prime Minister of the UK.
Yeah.
Like, dude, why would the people of the United Kingdom take you more seriously than they would their own health? And if they prefer vaping to being healthy, let them.
Let them.
What is it to you? Right? You don't have any business telling them what to do.
Very true. Especially if there's other ways to target the problem, or at least to come up with a solution for the problem.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so that's what they're doing in the UK. Apparently, figures from the Action on Smoking Health charity suggest 7.6% of 11 to 17-year-olds, almost 10% of 11 to 17-year-olds now vape regularly or occasionally. So there we go.
So a vape pen in SA goes for about 100 Rand or more.
Okay.
How is an 11-year-old getting their hands on a vape pen? They're getting that
someone's
money.
Buying it for them.
There you go. So,
or they're getting money from their parents.
So whoever is procuring these things for these kids is the problem.
Right.
And the government can't just intervene and say, no, this is a bad idea. No, like parents need to step up and actually be parents.
You're speaking to someone who's not a parent, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
All right. It's time for us to do the window seat. This is one of the most fun things we get to do every week or two. It's with travel.co.za. And today we're talking to Jonathan Gerber. Jonathan, it's so nice to see you. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. You're good.
Yeah, great. Thank
No,
you.
excellent.
24 started off well. Thank you.
I'm very happy. So we talk travel as a part of this show every week. And of course, you've got your own travel business. And we're going to talk about TAG in a second. But we're also going to talk about the TAG Foundation, which I know that you founded and which is doing amazing good work. But just tell us about your business.
Yeah, so we're a partner of TourVest, travel.co.za.
Right.
We're their biggest franchise partner. We started 15 years ago. That's the stable I come from. I used to be the CEO of TourVest Travel.
That's right.
And I've been on my own with the help of TourVest as a franchise partner for this year 16 years now. Been a
That's
long
phenomenal.
time. Yeah.
And you were there from 2001 to 2007, roughly.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, it's an amazing business. The tourism and travel business is just huge, and people will find money somehow. There are lots of people who make travel the priority for themselves every single year. It for many people is the only time they get to actually enjoy themselves because they're working so bloody hard in this country. So it's a great thing to be involved in, but it's also been through its challenges. I mean, you must have been very worried during COVID, for example. I hate to even bring it up because now we're trying to move on from it.
Exactly. I was
Yeah.
going to say, have we not moved on, please?
I know. But you guys survived that, and
Yeah,
you
we
looked
did.
after everybody who worked for you,
Yeah.
which is, again, something that no one's going to be running around patting anyone on the back for, but you did it.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, Jolene, who works for you, is one of my favorite people in the whole world.
Please don't tell her.
No, she's the best. She's the best. I was actually talking to her on social media over the weekend. She's hilarious, and she's so good at what she does. And she's like the people's person of people's.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have her and to have most of our staff, actually. But, the problem with travel and COVID aside is that literally you're as good as your last ticket. So you can provide somebody with 25 great holidays. They can have a wonderful time.
Right.
You provide them with one bad experience.
one.
yeah.
And it's no good. And fortunately, people with like Jolene, we ensure that we do dot the I's, cross the T's, and that people have a good time.
For
so
sure.
yeah, we're lucky.
Right.
We sell dreams.
So apparently you have something in common with Jack here. And, and this is around the TAG Foundation. So you started this in 2009. Just tell us what the TAG Foundation is and what the vision was at the beginning of this. And you've already, I think you've got 50 boys who are at KES and 14 girls who are at Parktown Girls, who are being supported by the TAG Foundation.
Yeah, so I mean, as a business, we obviously had some BE requirements. And my wife and I are quite passionate South Africans. And we thought, you know what, rather than just match what you have to do, so pay some company the 2% or the 1%, why don't we actually try and do something with the cash that we need to get the right points and to do something? We're passionate South Africans. We're not going anywhere. Everybody, I've heard
make a real difference. Don't just make some connected person in politics rich.
Correct. And so we started off in 2009. We had one kid. His name was Foxy, Lenwabo Nkoko. Great kid. And with all due respect to Foxy, and he'll tell you, they told us, look, you're going to take on this kid. He's a great kid. He's a very talented sportsman, but the chances are he's probably not going to pass matric. So, that was our challenge. So we took him on. Guess what? He passed matric. He got a varsity pass.
Fantastic.
And if he does a few more subjects, he'll actually get his degree. So, those are some of the small success stories that we've taken on. And it's the best thing we've ever done, actually.
So as a former KES boy myself.
Ah, you see, I knew there was class with.
Yeah, you see. Hearing those kind of stories, I'm a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. So hearing those kind of stories puts a smile on my face. What do you think is the TAG Foundation's most notable achievement?
Yeah, so we've got a few. One of them was getting Foxy to pass matric.
Yeah.
And we do provide extra help, extra maths, extra science, because those tend to be the subjects where the guys really battle the most. But I mean, just some. We've got 2 chartered accountants that have graduated from our program.
That's amazing.
We've had 3 South African schools rugby players. We've had 2 South African schools cricket players.
But Jonathan, I just want to stop you for a second. It's not just money. I mean, a lot of these kids don't have the the financial resources to get into a school like that. But
Yeah.
it's way more than that.
Yeah.
You're helping them with everything.
Yeah.
You're helping them with meals. You're helping them with shoes. You're helping them with uniforms. You're helping them with everything.
So for us, we prefer the boys. Look, Parktown girls is a different story because they don't have boarding, but we prefer the boys to be in boarding.
Yeah.
Because we can control things like prep, their meal times, the fact that they are actually getting fed. We can see their uniforms. We've got our program manager, Senzo Mkize, who actually lives on the property at King Edward's. He's what they call a stooge. He's been there for 3 years now. So he's a duty master. So he can see when the kids are battling. He can see when the uniform's not looking good. He can talk to them when they don't look happy. He can celebrate with them when they are happy.
It's amazing. It's like you're creating almost like a proxy father for them.
Correct.
And for many of these guys, they would have had none of that if it wasn't for the TAG Foundation.
Correct. And one of our success stories, you asked me about our success stories. Senzo is actually an old TAG Foundation boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he went through King Edward's 5 years with the help of TAG Foundation. He was a talented rugby player. He went to the Northwest University and he graduated with a BA in communications. And he's now our program manager for the TAG Foundation. So that's, it's the full circle.
That's full circle, yeah.
It's a wonderful story and that's something we're extremely proud of.
So people often look at these things and they say, to the notable achievement thing, it's like, how many people have you helped? Because that's also, it's a good barometer to see how you're doing.
Sure.
And, for a foundation like this, how do you measure success? Is it the individual stories, or is it the number of people you've helped, or is it, the look in someone's eyes when they've achieved something for themselves with a little bit of assistance?
Yeah, so it's quite a long and complicated question, but for us, what we've done is obviously the boys, they tell their own stories, and you can see the successes that they achieve, and some of the failures actually, because that's part of the learning process.
Right.
But what we've helped to do is to create a community around King Edward's and around Parktown that realize that this is something that's bigger than themselves. So we've got many. It's not just us. We've got many donors that give us money, because they trust the process. They trust the fact that we will look after these kids and that it's not just money and then give me my Section 18A for tax purposes and I'm moving on.
No, because there are a lot of businesses that do that.
Yeah. So we are a hands-on charity. We look after, we started with one boy. We've now got 50 boys this year.
Amazing.
As you can imagine, King Edward's, and the reason we chose a school like King Edward's, obviously I was involved there. I'm an old boy. But we just see so much better value for money there than the private schools. And that's not knocking the private schools. But at King Edward's, full boarding and day fees this year, we're just busy paying so to be a boarder is about 145,000 Rand, which is expensive. But at a private school, you're looking at over 300,000 Rand.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we can get 2-for-1 value for money, if I can call it that. And you have no idea how the schools, King Edward's and Parktown girls, get behind us, support us. You can see their teachers. And we've tried to create this environment where you can be proud to be a TAG kid. Often you're a bursary boy or girl and you come into the school and you left. Now, you don't know how they operate. You don't have that background. You go on sports tours. You don't have pocket money. You don't have tuck on a weekend when all the other guys go home and you... So we try and fill those gaps as well.
It's incredible.
So
you have to think of a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach. You're not just putting them through school. It's looking at the entirety of their lives at that point.
100%. And when they matriculate, we just had Caleb Lombard. He matriculated at King Edward's this year. He was summa cum laude. He got academic colours, sports colours,
cultural
colours. He got 5 A's for matric.
Wow.
He's got a rugby bursary through the Lions. And he's studying a BSc of Science at Wits this year. So
amazing.
But I'm very lucky. I mean, my wife really, she takes her motherly role extremely seriously. Our kids have flown the coop and they're out the house. And this is just something that she absolutely
You got 50 other kids that you didn't know about.
Or 64.
64, actually, yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
And so she's also very hands-on.
She's extremely hands-on. I mean, I generally talk to the donors. I try and work out ways that we can get the funding, do whatever. But the love of her life is looking after these kids, dealing with them, talking about their problems, getting them solutions.
Yeah.
It really is an incredible thing to watch. Very proud of her.
I think this might be a difficult question to answer, but what does the future look like for TAG? Foundation?
Okay, so that is so when we started, we said, okay, we'll take on Foxy. We got one boy. We think we're doing our job. We the good South Africans.
Right.
We then said, okay, what is our vision? So our vision said, okay, we'd like one boy per grade at King Edward's. So 5 boys across the grades. Then we got people sort of bought into what we were doing. We got funding from some corporates and from some friends and some people. And then we thought, okay, well, 5 cheapest. Okay, maybe we should go to, and now we're at 50.
Yeah.
Just at King Edward's.
Yeah.
Eventually, you run the school.
Then somebody said to us, yeah, but we really, with the problem with fatherly figures. I mean, 61% of South African children don't have fatherly figures.
Yeah.
So the mother is a critical role in South Africa if we are to believe in the future. So then we got involved with Parktown Girls. Again, we started with 4 girls. Now we've got 14 girls.
Yeah.
So, those roles are forever developing. But I would say I never want to put anybody under any pressure to be able to fund these kids. And the last thing that I would want to do is be in a position where we take somebody on board and for whatever reason we're unable to fund them.
Pull through, yeah.
So I would say we will get to as big as we possibly can get to. And still maintain the control and the intimacy of knowing those children, what they like, what they're talented at, what they want to be doing, and actually provide fathers and mothers for the future of the nation. That's where we want to get to.
That's brilliant.
Well, it's a huge responsibility. I love the fact that there are organizations like yours, businesses like yours. It's not an NGO. You've just got this foundation running alongside it.
Yeah.
And that there are so many other people that you've been able to rope in through your business connections, friends, as you say, people who care about this country, who are helping as well. If you want to find out more, you can go to tagfoundation.co.za. That's tagfoundation.co.za. And you can find them on X, on Facebook, and Instagram at Foundation Tag. And of course, all of this is brought to you by travel.co.za. And our friends at Turvest as well.
Yeah.
Terrific people.
They've been great partners to us. And just to add, they currently sponsor, they did sponsor 2 boys at King Edward's last year. Lesedi Sholi's just graduated or matriculated. He's now also a stooge at King Edward's. He's going to take on he's a cricket coach there as well, and he's studying at Wits this year. And then they've taken on 2 girls for this year at Parktown Girls. So they're a willing partner and a great partner to us as well.
That's superb.
That is fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Gareth.
I was going to go into a whole thing about like you and travel and where you've been, but we'll be here for a whole year.
Yeah,
you've been in this business
maybe
a while.
next time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Come in anytime.
As a
Thank you
parting
very
shot,
much.
I'll say, come on the Reds.
Go school.
All right, very good. There's some Kez old boys getting all
I had to do it.
nostalgic with each other.
I
There
had
for a
to
sec.
do it.
Yeah, I get it. So it's fine. All right, so we have an entire hour of Democracy 101 coming up next with the Independent Electoral Commission, and we'll be talking to them about a number of things, but most especially we're going to be talking about how funding works, the party funding, because the IEC actually gives money to the parties.
I've got a visceral reaction to that. But
we'll find out about
carry on.
that and the operations of the actual election, how it all actually works. So we'll get into that in a short while too. CliffCentral.com. It is a Tuesday morning. Good morning to you. Stick around. There's plenty of good stuff. Yep.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Manual versus automatic. Are you guys still, how do you guys feel about that?
I'm passionate about this one. Manuals all the way.
Yeah, look, I think it's very situation dependent because, I mean, when I drive here in the mornings, it's sort of a 60K commute to get here. So when I have a manual test car and I'm sitting in traffic, the purist in me slowly dies. And I'm praying for an EV or something in traffic. So it's very situation dependent.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Well, I don't know any South African who doesn't know Bold and the Beautiful. It's been around since I was a kid. Do actors who've done stage, musical theater, that kind of thing, do they kind of look down on the screen actors if they haven't done that?
They can. Some do. Yes, some do. But most do not.
Here's the man who plays the character Eric Forrester. His name is John McCook. He's been there since episode 1 back in 1987.
And so that's my experience with Umhlanga Rocks in Durban. And where they live outside of Joburg. They lived in a place called Vanderbilt Park. I don't know.
Wow. You just won over fans who already loved you even more. Have they ever given you like funny things, artifacts that you've kept? Is there anything from this show that you kind of treasure?
Yeah, the only thing I get is like a forest recreation stuff, because that's I can do that.
Oh, that's great. All right, it is Tuesday morning, cliffcentral.com, and it's time for a little Democracy 101. Obviously, we're heading into the most important elections in South Africa this year. We've got so much to talk about as a result of what may or may not occur in these elections, and we're trying to get to all the people who know things so that we're better informed, and so we can help you to understand more about your own rights and your own vote and what it means going into 2024. So Jack Motlanthe is here with me, and we're also joined by two very important people who've managed to make time for us this morning. I'm thrilled to have James Aphane. Hey, James, how are you?
I'm fine, yourself, Gareth.
Very good. James is the Electoral Operations Manager. This poor man must have such a busy life this year. I don't think he's going to see his family at all until June.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I don't even see my bike.
Shame, man. I'm sorry. But, at least you can rest easy knowing that the South African public is pleased that you're in charge of operations. They will find out exactly what that means in a short while too, because there's plenty that falls under his portfolio. Also, Party Funding Manager, who's Matsobane Nkoko, who is here as well. Matsobane, very nice to see you too.
Thank you very much, Gareth, and good morning.
Thank you. Thank you both, gentlemen. So, okay, we got a bunch of things to get to here, and I'm going to let Jack start off here because we don't even know. I said you'll be back, hopefully, to your normal life in June, but we don't know because the election date hasn't been announced yet, has it?
Correct. It has not been announced as yet. We're eagerly waiting for the president to announce it at least, because it would give us a lot of planning confirmations. So
what's holding him back? Why is he waiting?
Well, I'm not sure. That's a very good question, and obviously they will definitely respond to that. So, well, if it's announced, I mean, you know how to plan your life.
Yeah.
The State of the Nation address is coming up pretty soon. Is there any likelihood, perhaps, that he might just mention it during his address?
We hope so, with all of us.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Because it's about time.
Correct.
Let's get on with it.
Let's.
Okay, so when it comes to operations around this election, obviously you've got polling stations, you've got laws that need to be enforced around this. You need to manage all these parties. How long is our ballot paper looking at this point? Because this is also a nightmare.
Well, it's interestingly, we do not know as yet. Because,
oh my God, it's still coming. They still register.
Yes, all right. Because now registration is one, to register as a political party.
Right.
But then independents don't register. And only after the election has been proclaimed, then candidate nomination opens. And then we know how many candidates we have. And then we can really for sure tell how big the ballot is going to be. But as you know, we are actually looking at the biggest ballot that we've ever had since we had elections in 1994.
So at this stage, how long is it?
Well,
we have to fold it 200 times.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So, well, let's talk about the previous one. We had 48 parties. Obviously, it was just one sheet. But now we start looking into columns so that at least you will have one column, then the next column. So we're talking about, a situation wherein voters will have to be really sure of how to use these ballots.
And the parties expect you to put their full name. Sometimes their name could be like 8 words long.
Yeah.
They want a picture of their leader.
Yes.
They want their own logo.
Yeah.
And then they've got a box for you to tick.
Absolutely. And it cannot be small, by the way, because you need to make sure that you cater for all the different kinds of people out there,
including the ones you can't see.
So I have to ask.
Hence, we have what we call a universal ballot paper template. So just
let's
imagine.
have a look at this. This is interesting.
Just imagine. Okay, now this is just
hold
a
it
presentation
up for us. Okay, so this is a ballot template.
Yes.
Okay,
So how do we really? Yeah.
So what do we got here? You got in Braille.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3 to 18, but that's not going to fit all of them in.
Yes, this is the old one.
Right.
So this is a challenge that we're going to face, because once we have that booklet, we need to find ways, innovative ways of making sure that the visually impaired will also be given the same opportunity as all of us.
James, I have to ask, what is the criteria that one has to meet in order to start a political party? Because seemingly,
to get on the ballot. Anyone can start a party.
Excuse me, that is the more apt question to ask, because seemingly Jan Trap and Seymat have got a party and they are on the list, on the ballot.
Yeah. Okay. We have, as you've just heard, we have requirements for especially parties that are not represented. Currently, they need to have 15% of the previous quota. And independents, as you know now, they have to submit signatures for 1,000. So that in itself is a requirement, but it's also deposits that parties.
So 1,000 people need to sign. I've got on my phone. Just check your contact list. I've got like 5,000 numbers on my phone.
You've got 5,000. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
you can become an independent.
So if I just sent all the people on my phone, 4,446 contacts. If I had to send all of them a WhatsApp and only a quarter of them replied, I could register a political party.
Well, not as simple as that.
What do I have to pay?
Currently, I think we spoke about 45,000, but I think the figure is going to be revised to 50,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to put some money where your mouth is.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
And who else is going to pay for this stuff if you don't? If you think that you're going to, just get a significant number of voters, then it's worth paying that money.
Yeah.
But now, since we're talking about money, I'm going to go to Matsobane quickly, because Matsobane has to handle party funding. Right. Because what you guys do is you actually give parties money to contest the elections.
Not to contest elections, Gareth. You only get money once you are elected to the provincial legislature or the national parliament. Those are the only people that receive money, or the parties that receive money.
Okay, so you're not going to give any of that 50,000 Rand deposit back to parties that don't even show up and don't even get the election numbers that they need to get a seat in parliament or anything.
That part is managed by James, but you pay deposit and you must get at least a seat in the national or provincial legislature for you to get your deposit back. If you don't get a seat, you don't get your money back. You forfeit that money.
All right, so you've come in with this interesting little book here, which I've got called, you said here, this is Political Party Funding Act 6 of 2018 and the regulations. This was recently updated and changed. So what are the current rules around party funding? And I know Jack's got a lot of things to ask you here, because he was furious already. Before we even started talking about it, he was furious this morning. Do you want to ask your specific questions? Then I'll
let him ask. Let him answer your question, and then we'll follow up with mine.
So tell us about this booklet.
Yes, this booklet that you have, Gareth, is the current legislation as it stands, which came into effect on the 1st of April 2021. This is what is currently being amended.
So these are the rules around who can actually give money to political parties.
Certainly. And how those political parties should use the money.
And individuals, companies, NGOs, overseas interests, because we need to know who's paying those people who are running in the elections and those people who are standing in parliament. We need to know what their motivation is, right? As a country, we don't want someone in Colombia, for example, giving one of our political parties billions of dollars and then influencing the way that our laws are made.
Yeah.
Certainly. Sovereignty of the state, South African state, is a very important aspect in political party funding. Now, there is a very clear prescription against foreign governments funding political parties. Individuals, entities that are foreign can fund political parties. Going forward, they will be able to fund those independents that make it into parliament However, there is limitation. They can only do so up to a maximum of 5 million rand. Whether they, donate or fund these parties, individuals, in dollar terms, in pound terms, you convert it into rand terms, it shouldn't be more than 5 million rand in a year, in a financial year.
So that's the upper limit to what can be donated.
Certainly.
So there's nobody who's giving more than 5 million rand a year.
Not when you are a foreign national or a foreign entity.
So then who can give more than 5 million?
Local individuals, local businesses can provide more than 5 million rand, and that's up to 15 million rand in a financial year.
1.5. So no one in the world is going to be able to give any political party more than 15 million rand a year.
Certainly.
I didn't know that.
And you know what? Like, I understand we're talking about big numbers here,
but 15 million is not a lot.
Yeah, well, when it comes to political parties, it really is.
They could spend that in a day.
Yeah, in a day.
T-shirts alone is like 4 times that.
However, like right now, I feel like we're having this conversation about like on paper, this like the laws as it stands. However, like these donations, is there any sort of follow-up as to what's being done with this money? Are there any checks and balances, or is it just given to them and they can run?
Who actually makes sure that these laws are enforced? Who's watching the parties and accounting for this?
Right. You'll appreciate that there are 2 sources of funding for political parties. There is private funding. That's the money that they get from those private individuals, from their members, from any other person that's interested in donating to a political party. That's referred to as a direct donation, right? Now, with that money, parties can do as they wish. They can go to town. Remember, it's up to a maximum of 15 million rand per individual, right? Now, there is another fund which is now funded by the state, right? That amount in a year, this very last year that we just ended, parties got about 350 million rand.
Whoa, wait a second. Whoa. So we as taxpayers, are now funding the political parties.
Certainly, yes. As a matter of fact, Gareth, I think I gave you half the truth. Initially, at the beginning of the financial year, the Minister of Finance allocated 350 million rand to political parties. Towards the end of the financial
proportionally distributed.
Well, there is a proportional and equitable distribution. 67% proportional, 33% equitable. Now, let me add this. Towards the end of the financial year, there was a second appropriation bill that was passed, which added another 300 million rand. Meaning that
they were running short.
Well, it was said to be in preparation for elections 2024.
I'm glad that you said it was said, because we know it was not. But anyway.
Yes. So in the end, political parties walked away. And I'm talking about 15 political parties, by the way, right? Those are represented political parties, 15 of them in total. They walked away with 650 million rand in the financial year that is gone by. Now, 33% of that amount is allocated equitably to the 15 political parties. And then the 67% is allocated proportionally, which means the larger party, that is the party that has the larger number in the 2 houses combined, the provincial and the national, will obviously get the lion's share in that regard. And you would know who that party is. And, in hierarchy of, numbers, so to speak. Yeah.
So why would it be in the interests of the people of South Africa, the tax-paying people of South Africa, to be funding these parties? Why would we want to help them fund them? They should fund themselves.
No, I'm glad you're asking that question, Gareth, because besides it being a necessary thing for political parties to be able to run, this is provided for in the Constitution.
I don't care if they don't run.
Look, trust me, the sovereignty of our state is very important. True. And the only way to do that is to make sure that political parties do not get influence from external funders. I mean, we all know he who,
pays the piper.
Right? Now,
but
the Constitution certainly does provide for this. Section 236 of the Constitution says that political parties shall be funded from the public fund.
So I was saying this to my cousin the other day. We saw a couple of people walking around in political t-shirts. I won't say which party it is.
Yeah.
And the thought popped into my mind. Why don't we require political parties to actually sell these t-shirts? Because if they've got real supporters, they've got no problem getting people to buy into their ideas. Why are we funding them?
I was talking to a politician, the leader of a political party just the other day, and he said, no, you don't understand. We have to give people these T-shirts because that's how we have a relationship with our target market, our party people. This is how they want to identify with us, and we want them to identify with us. So we give them the shirts.
I wish I had a bucket to throw.
You know what is very interesting? Just sorry to interject here.
Go ahead.
Is now that we've got new legislation allowing you guys to participate as independents, you don't have to join a political party. And therefore you can then make your voices heard. You must just register, get your name on the candidate list, and maybe hopefully this discussion can go a mileage,
Maybe Jack should go as the party that does not give T-shirts.
No. I'd have no problem selling 10,000 T-shirts to people that are willing to back some of my ideas. I've got no problem with that.
Tell you what, parties are more than free to sell those T-shirts. I'll tell you that this legislation does categorize different types of funding, right? There's funding that, comes from, your members that you send to parliament. They pay what is called levies. There is funding that comes from the, public coffers, and there is other funding. That funding includes the sale of merchandise. So if a party feels that, it would like to sell merchandise to raise money, or, throw big galas to sell, tables to raise money, they're more than welcome to do that. And that falls in a different category called other funding.
And how easy is it to just hoodwink all of these rules by saying, let's say I'm a big funder from, let's say I'm a big supporter of one of these parties and I have 500 million that I want to give to them.
Right.
So I just set up 10 different companies that each do the 15 million, and then I get my cousin and I give him 10 million and he gives that to them, and I give my other cousin and he gives that to them, and then I suddenly I've given them 250 million rands worth of support.
Did you have to go there, Gareth? Because
who's doing a forensic audit of this? It's going to be impossible.
Yeah, because we have to admit that there's the possibility for abuse does exist.
Huge. We know it's happening in the corporate sector, right? The private sector is always up to this stuff, and they know which rules they need to put in place to bend these rules. They know how to create trusts and entities and companies within companies.
And that's the reality of our life, Gareth. And this on a very serious note. There are people that own multiple companies in this country. I don't need to mention, and some of them have donated to different parties from different companies. As long as the company has got its own identity in terms of registration number, its own bank account, and so forth, it can donate up to that 15 million rand. If you've got 10 companies that have got all that independent identity, independent bank account number,
it makes
you
a mockery.
certainly can do that.
It makes a mockery of these rules. Then it really does, because there's still a few people who can control the parties and the narrative and everything else.
Gareth, there are families that we know, that fund parties, with their children. There are big, people that own multiple companies that do that, and the legislation allows for that to happen. And I think it's one of the things that I think if any amendment were to be meaningful, it would include that particular aspect.
Well, you would think
so. Once again, Gareth, be an active.
Yeah, I know.
Participate in these elections and you'll change the course, right?
Yeah, I know. Jack's just laughing.
No, I mean, it's to be honest, it's a difficult position to be put in, right? You either have to find some sort of solution constitutionally to try tackle these things, or as you're suggesting, James, that you start this thing from the ground up. But let's be honest, running for any office is a mountain to climb. This is no joke. This is not something you wake up and decide to do.
James, you brought up that independent candidates can now get themselves elected. Correct. But how difficult is that? I mean, you mentioned that the parties have to pay 50,000 rand and they have to have 1,000 signatures. How does it work for independents? Same.
Yes, okay. The 15% is unrepresented political parties. The independents is only 1,000 signatures.
Oh, okay. Right. So the parties need 15,000. So I couldn't do that with my phone contact list. Okay, but that's
15% of the previous quarter. So it depends in various regions. For instance, Gauteng is the one that has got the highest number of signatures.
Okay.
So if you get routing, which is 13,859, then you can, contest all other provinces.
I see. All right. But then for an independent, it's not insurmountable. You mentioned it's a hell of a mountain to climb, but I don't think it's that. To get 1,000 signatures and 50,000 rand, if you're serious about...
If you're serious, for sure.
Correct.
The
and
point
that's for the national parliament.
No, they cannot do national. They can only do provincial.
Oh, so independents can only...
States,
See,
yes.
this is important distinction.
Yes, we need to make the distinction, actually.
Correct.
So what would then be the difference between a political party and an independent in as far as the seats that they can contest for and so on and so forth? So if you could break it down between a political party and independent, what is the actual difference?
So you've got 400 seats in the National Assembly, and 200 of those are a national ballot, and the others are the regional seats.
Okay.
So the independent candidates can only contest the regional seats, and then the
That's
other
half
200,
of parliament, so it could be substantial.
Could be.
Absolutely. So it gives them the opportunity as a stepping, stone in that environment, so they can make influence. But you never know. The situation keeps on changing. You did mention that is a very big task to enter into politics, and I agree with you. But you need to start somewhere.
Sure.
So eventually, if young people like yourself get involved in this democratic project, so one day things are going to be done differently, I think, so that everybody can have an equal share of influence.
I hope that day shows up soon.
All right.
I really do.
I want to quickly go into some things. I see you've got some information here in front of you, James, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And feel free to jump in here, Matsobane, wherever you want to as well.
Yeah.
International voter registrations. We've got a big voter registration weekend here in South Africa this coming weekend. And we are encouraging everybody to go and register to vote if you haven't already. And you can check that fairly easily, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can send like an SMS.
Yes,
and it'll tell you-
32810. Yes.
What is it?
32810.
I'm going to do it right now, just even though I know I'm registered. So what do? I just send a
ID number to 32810.
Okay.
Your ID number.
32810. And then I just send my ID number, and then they'll tell me what's going on there. Let me just do this right now. I almost forgot my ID number.
Yeah,
That would
James,
not be a good thing.
that would not be
James,
a good thing.
there is that WhatsApp number as well,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wait for this one to come through. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, tell us how it works for international voter registrations. Because there are lots of South Africans who are working overseas, lots of South Africans who have intention to be in South Africa, but for various reasons they're over there. Maybe they're on holiday.
Correct.
Maybe they've got family over there, studying over there, whatever it might be.
I've actually got a cousin who's working in Dubai right now.
Right. So what happens with those people?
Those people, they will have to register if they have not done so already. We gave them the opportunity over the weekend, and they just rock up at a mission, or they rocked up a mission over the weekend and registered. They can still do so online up until proclamation. And we are very grateful because we've seen a very big uptake in this registration that was provided over the weekend and also online. So when we started with this facility, we have an online facility for the first time. We started in December. We had 6,000. And currently, as we speak, we do have 26,660 online registrations.
Does that equate to a seat in Parliament?
Unfortunately,
No.
not yet.
I think the
enough.
number now is
Not yet, but-
46,000, if I'm not wrong.
But yeah.
Somewhere there, 46,000 per seat.
All these people, if all these registered voters overseas vote, they'll get half a seat.
Yeah.
Which basically registration is not closed as yet, remember?
Yeah.
And they are not actually counted as separate. They'll be counted together with the other voters.
Sure.
So it's not looking at it in an isolation, but definitely, you know what we're happy about? Because remember, before 2014, people were not able to participate in elections.
Right.
So now they do have an opportunity to participate in elections. And as such, we have seen, and again, we now have the online platform that was made available last year. So the numbers are increasing. So I predict that 45,000 you mentioned will be exceeded by the time the proclamation is made of the elections. and then you're going to get that seat. If you want all of those people to vote for you, Gareth.
Yeah,
then
I'm not standing. Don't worry, I'm not standing for election. But
Gareth, sorry, I wanted to make a point that we were excited about getting only 1,000 people, nominating you for you to participate in the elections. But 1,000 people are not going to get you a seat anyway.
No, I know.
So it's very important that you understand.
At least you aim for 50, but
certainly.
So if you think you can get 50,000 people to back you, you could end up in a seat in Parliament. And you could change the course of South Africa. You really could, because the laws being passed all the time. You do have a say. And as an independent, you don't have to report to anyone. You report just to your constituents.
Exactly. Like yourself. You see, now you're an independent. You don't have to report to anyone. So the setup like you have here is a very good conduit to get people to follow you or to do whatever you want to do. So it's actually seriously an opportunity that people can take up seriously. Yes, so that you can participate in elections. You don't need that big, massive machinery where you get millions and millions, but you can start somewhere. And the platforms like these make it possible.
You can tell James loves his job because seemingly he wants to add more people to the ballot.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm actually aiming to, for this election, have at least 28 million registered.
How are we tracking at the moment?
At the moment, we just surpassed the 27 million. Remember, when it started, it was 26 million. The CEO is going to issue a media statement tomorrow. And we're getting a lot of interest, especially from young voters that are hitting the call. So I'm sure we're definitely going to have 28 million and plus. And that'll be for the first time in our history that we have that high number of registrations.
Fantastic. Well, I got this email from Brian Lawrence. He's in the UK. He's a South African who lives and works there. I'd just like to inform you, voter portal for citizens abroad is now open and people can register to vote overseas. Do inform your audience. So there we go. Now we've got the IEC saying that is true. So you can go ahead and do that. What about people who need the special vote? I've heard about these special votes, but I've always, just like everybody else, stood in the queue. Who gets a special vote? Who are these special people?
Special people are like myself, because I work for the IEC, the
you
military.
won't be able to vote.
You know what? Sometimes we do forget about our rights as IEC employees as well.
Sure.
So we work so hard the whole day, and the next thing, I remind my team, guys, voting is closing. Go and vote, because they didn't apply for special votes. So there's two categories, Gareth. There's people like myself or the military that can apply for a special vote to be conducted at a voting station. But we're also able to visit people that are unable to come to our voting stations.
So like very old people, people who are sick in hospital.
Absolutely,
All right. Would you then, if you need to, let's say you're busy on election day, you're a policeman or you're working or you're a doctor or something. You get you go the day before, the week before, half
2 days before.
2 days before.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it includes home visits, right? So we need to find this person and administer an election.
How would someone go about applying to get the special vote? Like if perhaps my grandmother is bedridden, but she's still of, sound mind and she can actually make a vote.
She's not of sound mind?
Hey, we hide the IT. Let's get on top of the IT. But let's just say, how would I go about applying for the special vote?
I need to mention this. The first thing you need to do as soon as now is to register. Because there's people who've got doubts out there. I don't know which political party to support. But it's very important to get your name on the voters' roll. Then you can make a decision later whether you're going to vote or not. Because once it's proclaimed, you cannot be on the voters' roll for this election. Now, coming back to your question, that Granny Nkoko at home that needs to be assisted is very easy. Because you're registered, you just give us notification. It's called applying, but technically it's not applying because you getting your name on the voters' roll. It's like we're creating an invitation list. Remember, this is a celebration of democracy. So we're creating this invitation list. So you are on our list already. There's no need to get permission. Already, you're permitting yourself by getting your name on the voters' roll. So you just tell us, where should we send your ballot come voting day? So you say, okay, I won't come to the voting station because I'm sick. I've just been in an accident. Send my ballot home. So you just tell us, you do it via the SMS facility. Or you can also do it online on our website. Then we'll be able to know, okay, you give us the address and therefore we'll be able to come and visit you.
Pretty straightforward.
There we go. All right. So there's on the website's the best place to go.
Correct.
And someone can help you if you don't know how to use that stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You can call our contact center 0800 11 8000. They're also equipped to give out this information in terms of the questions that you guys are asking now.
Yeah. And Gareth, there's another important point that James, I think, needs to clarify. In the past, you could, for as long as you are in the province, you could go and vote anywhere. You'd get the 2 ballots, one for the province, one for the national parliament. But now the law has changed. You need to be at your voting station. And I'd like James to clarify that.
Yeah, that's important because people otherwise won't be able to vote for their provincial or their local in the local
the national, you mean, yes. Okay, it's very good that Matsobane highlighted. You see, now you have to apply for us to send your ballot where you'll be. We call it a Section 24A.
Yes.
So this provision, unlike in the past, you just rocked up at a voting station and say, okay, I'm actually from Cape Town. I'm here in Gauteng for business. But you only qualify for a national ballot.
Right.
But the challenge with that is in terms of planning from our side, we don't know how many people are going to rock up at different places while they're traveling. So have you had stories of voting stations running out of ballots?
Yep.
Yes.
It's because we provide for 110%. But suddenly we have, instead of 1,000 people,
150%.
and then everybody says, hey, the IEC cannot plan. It's simply because we do not have the information up front. For this year, we want you to tell us where we should send your ballot. And this is where you need to notify us that you're going to be somewhere else. Then we'll be able to send you the ballot.
Okay, that's important to know.
Yeah. Very important to know.
So what happens with registrations? Do people need to physically go and register if they aren't going to do it online? I've got mine, by the way, so mine is cool.
Is it cool?
Saw it now, yeah, I'm good.
Have you
checked yours?
Yeah, long time ago.
All right.
I'm sorted.
You're sorted.
I'm definitely voting this year. Don't get it wrong. Do not get it twisted.
Okay, so what happens for people who want to physically go and register? Are those at the same place as the polling stations?
Yes, absolutely. So we
all over the country. So you're running that as well?
Absolutely. 23,303 voting districts. But the voting stations are actually a little bit more because we have, in some instances, what we call mobile voting stations, which is a car that will service people, especially in areas like the Northern Cape where the voting districts are large. But we have since learned over the years that the voting districts in urban centers like here in Gauteng, they keep on increasing, but we cannot find venues. So what we did was to create voting centers. So we take the entire voters roll, subdivided it into according to alphabets. And when you get in, you get the most efficient service because you don't have to stay in a long queue for quite a long time.
That's fantastic because who wants to stand in a long queue? It's hard enough getting people to register and getting people to actually come to the polling station. If they see a long queue, they're going to go,
They do what you call queue shopping.
Yeah. and again, you must go to your voting station.
Absolutely. That's very, very important.
Otherwise, you won't get your form.
Okay.
So are there more registration drives after this, or is this the final one?
Well, in terms of physical walk-ins, we'll still have it available at our offices. But in terms of opening 23,303 voting districts out there, this is the last opportunity. Hence, I said people must not waste time. They must go over that weekend and have, part of the mood. When you go to voting stations, it's like, a national mood. But as I indicated, online is always available 24/7 up until proclamation. But the sooner, the better, Gareth.
So Snaya says in the questions here, on the comments, there were a lot of issues around voting stations in the last election. People who changed addresses could not vote in their new local voting station. I think Pumi, who does the show with me on a Thursday, had the same issue. So how does that work? You've got to actually make sure that you're at the right one.
Absolutely.
No one can do that for you.
No. So you have to make sure you're at the right voting station. And it's simple. We've had this facility at the IEC called Voting Station Finder. And it's an IEC innovation, actually, or South African innovation, if I may put it that way.
Yeah.
So, you are familiar with maps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did, we overlaid IEC logic on top of a map, wherein after you've put in your address, the map will be able to determine which is your voting district. So it's easy, like companies that are running internet mapping platforms, your Waze, your Googles, your all that. You put in your address there, then it tells you which is your correct voting station. It's called VS Finder. You can just search it, Google it, and say VS Finder, and it will actually be able to tell you which is your correct voting station.
I'm so glad we're stepping into the 21st century. Can you believe it?
Now, how long do you think it'll be? I mean, you guys, we had the deputy CEO of the IEC in here the other day.
Yeah.
In fact, it was last year already. But he was saying to us, that the future, because of technology, may be a very different way of doing things. How long do you think it'll be before we can validate people's ID and let them vote from home?
I think that is actually very soon. It was supposed to have happened, by the way. We
really
have done, yes, we've done studies. We have conducted consultations. We had a specific, conference that was dealing with this. And we made submissions, Parliament, and as part of the new changes to the laws for this election. So because of the fact that, it doesn't have a lot of buy-in, it has been set aside. It's not approved because we wanted to run a pilot.
The politicians don't like it.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, we want to do a pilot. And you know what? The question is actually becoming more valid because we encourage people to register online, right?
Yeah.
And including the people that are overseas. So if you are in a big country like China, so you've registered, yes, online.
And all your
which is
databases and everything are digital.
Exactly. Yes. And then there's a lot of technology these days to make sure that each and every transaction is secure. So, if digital was not reliable, why is everybody, or not everybody, most of the people are doing internet banking? Where's your money currently?
But James, accessibility is an issue. Not all of South Africa has got, accessibility, at least not reliable accessibility to.
Yeah,
network.
well, I mean, to have
argue-
it as an option, though.
I would argue that more South Africans have a phone and data than have access to a polling station in the Northern Cape.
Now, the challenge is whether your Vodacoms, MTNs, and whoever reach those places. There are places in the far-flung areas that do not have access to that. And that's I think one of the issues that have been raised, James.
So do you think there'll be a combo of the two? There'll be a combination of actual physical polling stations one day and an online vote?
Well, you see, there's a reason why we needed to do a pilot. And it's simply because of the issues that Matsobane is raising, which were actually in the feedback that we received when the bill was published. So you need to do a pilot because you cannot really run the risk of any mistake. So you cannot leave anything to chance. You need to satisfy yourself that everything works.
Every politician and every political party will be screaming that their election's rigged and it's fake. And that these people are voting and they shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Absolutely.
And foreign nationals are suddenly getting online platforms working. And,
we saw it happening in the States in 2016.
Yeah.
And
2020.
Well, even around here. Remember in Namibia?
Yes.
They went voting, and then what happened afterwards?
Abandoned it.
Yeah.
They decided this is no good. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about these parties. Because are there certain rules that will invalidate a party from running in South Africa? What do they have to comply with in order to be able to count themselves among the legitimate political parties in the country? For example, if a party has in their manifesto that they don't believe South Africans should have a vote at all, are they still allowed to run as a political party? Could we allow all kinds of things in there? What if it's a party full of criminals who don't believe, believe that we should include Botswana in South Africa or whatever?
Well, remember we got something called a freedom of speech.
Yes.
But we do have legislation that people need to comply with. And we ran workshops with political parties in terms of
Did they come?
Yeah, they came.
See how little faith we have in our party.
Right? But we also, right at the end, after, remember at this stage, it's just, politicking, if I may call it that way.
Sure.
But there will be a time wherein you need to have that money to be able to contest. Now you register yourself as a candidate, you're on the list. And then you have to sign a pledge, code of conduct. So once you've signed that
pledge,
well, it's just to make sure that let's make this thing a very fair and competitive process for everyone. to avoid, issues such as
You
those
promise
that-
to be a good person.
Yeah, it's like, when you play a match, it's always rules for each and every arrangement. So you say, okay, now guys, we are going to compete, and these are the rules that we need to follow to compete, so that nobody can feel cheated. And that's very critical, Gareth, because in addition to us, remember when you do preparations for elections, we keep consulting political parties, because the maps that we create, you have a concept called gerrymandering, right?
Yeah.
So when we create voting districts, we get the political parties involved in the process, because we print maps, make it available to everyone to inspect. And if they are unhappy with the voting district, they must raise those concerns.
So someone brought up gerrymandering because it's an American term, but it's definitely happened in this country to some degree.
Yeah.
You look at the municipalities and these big metros. The fact that there used to be a mayor of Randburg, there used to be a mayor of Soweto, there used to be a mayor of Sandton, and now there's just a mayor of Johannesburg.
Yeah.
And the needs of the people in Alex, for example, just across the road here, are very different. Jane, who works for us, is from Alex. Very different to the needs of the people who live in this place where we are now.
Correct.
Right, Sandton. So you could almost argue that that's a kind of gerrymandering as well, that the political parties, they see where their support is, and they want to include more of their supporters and less of the other party's supporters. How do you navigate that? Because the average South African sees it as being rigged. They see it as some sort of system where these politicians are making it work for them rather than for the citizens of that place. The people who actually have water, electricity, rubbish removal, issues around service delivery, issues around opportunities, jobs.
Just basic day-to-day life
stuff. And then we look at these politicians rigging these things and we say, well, actually, they're just trying to make it work for them so they can get the constituency that they want.
Yeah. Okay, wait, we need to make a very clear distinction. The IEC is responsible to run and administer elections. And when I talk boundaries, I'm talking about voting district boundaries.
You don't get to make the maps.
Well, we do the maps, but for the voting district boundaries, not for the other types of political boundaries. From ward upwards, we call those political boundaries. And that is the Municipal Demarcation Board.
So the wards you administer, but everything above that.
No, the VDs, the voting districts.
Not even the wards.
Because it's a planning unit. It's for us to be able to plan and deliver elections in the most efficient manner. But those
you
other
don't
boundaries,
determine the rest of them.
no, political boundaries from wards, municipal boundaries, like you've mentioned, where metros are mixed and so forth. That's the focus of the MDB. That's their responsibility. And they also have a public consultation process.
And who are they? Who put them in charge? I mean, where do they get chosen from? Do you know? I know this is outside of your scope, but
it's also an institution wherein the names gets put out there, nominations, and then they get appointed by the president.
Oh, we should get into that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Doesn't it sound good?
It sounds like it's got a good return of investment.
Yeah.
Who knows? I actually wanted to ask. I've always been interested from the time I was a kid. As far as the counting of the votes, it seems like such a very difficult thing to put together, especially considering how many votes. Like as you said, you're approaching 28 million people on the voters roll.
Correct.
If all of them show up, that is a lot of work to comb through. How do you guys go about making sure that every vote is counted and counted correctly?
Well, firstly, after the voting has been concluded, we then make sure that all the counting happens with the political parties observing, by the way. The actual,
they're all in the room. When
yes,
you
in
count.
the room. Yes, when the counting is happening.
Do they bicker and squabble? Do you have to separate them at fights?
No.
They don't fight.
No, they don't fight. So what is very interesting,
Jack and I don't know if we believe that.
No,
they don't
is
fight.
It political parties.
It would be
interesting topic. That's interesting discussions, debates in the media. But when it comes to doing the actual project, they are very professional people.
Very true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they don't really, cause any harm to our electoral process. And we're very thankful of that.
Do the parties have enough people to count in 23,000 polling stations?
Yes, they do.
The smaller parties can't possibly have enough people to be able to be represented there.
Yes, agreed. But remember, the fact that we provide for that opportunity It's for the parties. So
Okay.
the other parties can
They still
also
have to send someone.
Yes, they're sensing. They're watching us, Gareth.
But also, Gareth, what these parties do is that they focus on their strongholds. You know,
Right. So
Yeah.
the Kwankwaitla Workers' Party is not going to be sending people to
precisely. However, that doesn't take away that another party that is stronger there, or 2-3 others that are stronger there, will be there to watch the process. And I think James made a very important point here, that these political parties, they may be bickering and doing all sorts of things, but when it comes to that point, because of the transparency, the openness with which a IEC does this work, gives them confidence that, you know, by the time the results are out there announced, they've seen the process from the beginning. Excuse me. They've seen the process from the beginning right till the end, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Well, someone in the comments says, how can we know that completed ballots found on the side of the road, etc., aren't counted? How do they account for X number of ballots sent out and X number of ballots received? Do you check out and in? Almost like, you know, we know how many 200 Rand notes are in circulation.
Yeah.
The Reserve Bank knows how many there are.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have what we call a ballot reconciliation. Actually, let me start here. The actual ballot is as valuable as that note that you've just mentioned now. Because it's got a security feature and it's got a serial number. So once the ballots are produced, we can account for each and every ballot out there. But you know how things happen, eh? Somebody can just, you know, take a photo of something and say ballots are lost up in the bush and so forth and so forth. And it so happens, I've seen it in the past, sometimes people recirculate old information as new. But I think I want to come the issue with that question that you asked. So after we have done the counting, we filled in the result slip. Remember, we have not captured this yet. We're counting. And the people that are watching us, we put that result slip at the door of the voting station. Each and every voting station has that result slip. And the public, unlike in other countries, the politicians and the public is allowed to take a picture of that result slip. So you can actually collate results with us and double check us. But it goes further because once we get to the capturing site, right? For logistical purposes, yes, it's not always possible for people to come and observe the capturing. But in some cases, it's possible. If you can just make arrangements with us, we are happy to show you how the capturing works. But we capture and we do double capture. We capture the first time, and then we capture the second to make sure the capturing is correct. After that result slip gets scanned. Remember, we've got data captured, the image gets scanned, and then it goes to the next level of auditing. We have independent auditors that make sure the results are as correct as they appeared on that result slip. Before we showed it to the media, we also double check at national office to make sure the results that are captured are equals to the result slip, the physical one. And by the way, we've won an award for this kind of innovation internationally to say, well, these guys, their process is so transparent. So if anybody's got a doubt in terms of the vote that counts, we do have a process and we are really transparent. We can really show it to you. You can come to our offices. We can take you through the process. You can come to what we call the ROC, the Results Operations Center. You can observe, you can see how it works so that you satisfy yourself that each and every vote counts.
Any citizen can do this.
Yes, absolutely. Any citizen can do this because it's a national project.
We're going to send Jack.
He must come to the ROC.
I was about to nominate myself. We're actually busy with the VVIP, which is Voters' Voices in Politics. It's
brilliant.
a podcast that we're putting together. Today, we're doing a roadshow to get people interested in registering to vote. So I'm going to go through the entire process.
Fantastic.
I will be at the ROC. Where I'll write down all of this information and people can keep up with the day-to-day interactions right here on Cliff Central and on our social media platforms.
You know, Gareth, following on this particular point, I remember in the 2021 local government elections, there's a party, and I'm not going to mention which party, it ran a massive campaign, right? And you would know that at the Results Operations Center, parties are consulted, they are kept abreast every time. I think there's 3 or 4 meetings a day between the chief electoral officer and the parties to keep them abreast about what is happening in different places. When the results were to be announced, this party, I think it didn't do as well as they would have thought, as the general public would have thought, but the leader of that party was the first one to say IEC did a great job. We are happy with the results. For me, that I think was a very huge moment.
That's good. And we haven't had any situations in South Africa where, like in America, they people actually call into question the legitimacy of the election.
No, never.
Yeah. And are you guys keeping a hawk eye on the fact that people want to tear an election down? They want to make it seem. I mean, even some comments here from people. So Bridget says, "I wouldn't trust any voting process." Well, then, I mean, how do we start?
How do we solve that? That is such a non-starter.
Yeah. I mean, what do we do with people like Bridget? Do we tell them to come and look, see for themselves?
Hence, I said everyone is welcome to observe the process right from the voting station.
Yeah.
Right at the voting station, the capturing site, you can make arrangements with us. All we don't want is for people to, overwhelm our people that are doing capturing.
Right. Sure.
But everyone is welcome to observe the process. And you asked in terms of the number of, votes that we expect. We're actually also expecting records in terms of voter turnout. I'm expecting a very high number of people participating in this election, because you've heard people saying 2004 is our 1994. So because of that, remember, we're still doing counting manually. We actually do have teams that needs to shift to make sure that people are not tired and they won't make mistakes.
It is a lengthy process.
In addition to us being watched, by the political parties, then we really have capacity to deal with the counting.
And how many people work at the IEC for you to be able to man all of these stations, to be able to have, people clock in and out when they're tired?
We will have up to 60,000 people working at various voting stations. Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And in fact, the last election, my little sister was part of the people that were helping out at voting stations and what. And I think there's also a great way to get people involved in voting. There's a lot of voter apathy. That's what a lot of people have been saying. But when you look at the numbers, I think it points to the contrary, because we are at a point genuinely where we need to stand up and do something about it.
Absolutely.
2024, I think, is of more importance than 1994. Genuinely, because
it
we are.
affects you more than 94 did, because you weren't able to vote there.
Well, I was starting school back then. It was important.
Yes, actually, this is your 1994.
Is.
We've had our own 1994, so
Yes.
this is your
It's my
1994.
version, yes.
2024 is your 2024. But something that you mentioned there, which I like, the fact that listening to your show, there was a guest talking about voter apathy amongst the youth.
Yeah.
But let's start here. Who is the youth actually? Because we say youth. I don't know who you're talking to when you say that.
Do you consider yourself in there, Jack? You're in your 30s now.
Yeah, well, in June, I'll no longer be considered youth. I'm 34.
Yeah.
So to my understanding, by legally, you are youth from 35 downwards. That's youth.
No,
what I've been told.
no, I don't think so. According to me and others, you can check on the web. 39 and below is young adults, right? I don't know.
39.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right.
It's called young adults.
Young adults.
And remember, the reason I'm mentioning this, Gareth, is we have seen an increase in the number of people that are registering for the first time.
That's very good news.
And that is below 39, which means these people have never registered before.
They've never voted.
Because sometimes we chase the youngsters. We want to get them on the voters roll. But remember, once we put you on the voters, we don't remove you. You stay there. You get older and older on that voters roll. So if we did not get you and we managed to get you this time, we get excited because you were never with us before.
Yeah.
So now you're coming on board.
You raise an interesting point there too. And I don't know how it works. You've got to help me understand this. What about when old people die? Do you scratch them off the list? How do you know when they've died? Do they just not pitch for the next election?
No, we currently have, and some people have raised this as an issue. We also, beginning to have issues with it. The entire voters roll is standing currently at almost 30 million and plus. The entire voters roll. But they've got what we call verified voters, deceased voters, and rejected voters. There's people who apply, we don't qualify, and we reject them. But we put them there for a reason. So that if you come, you have applied, blah, blah, blah. You say, we applied. You are on the voters roll, but on the rejected
segment. We've got rid of you, yeah. You're not allowed to be on here.
So if you're no longer with us, we still have your details on that voters roll, but obviously you can't come and vote.
So when do we decide to get rid of people? Like, how do you eventually get someone off the voters roll? I mean, there could be 120 on the voters roll, right?
We're talking to the commission to allow us to remove them.
Is that how long? Is that what it takes?
Yeah, look, the commission has made a decision to keep those people there when we start with the voters roll, but it's growing, as you indicate, that now we might have a lot of people that are appearing on the rejected segment of the voters roll. But yeah, there's something that I think as an election administrator, I can mention it, but I don't want to promote it.
Sure.
You can also get your name off the voters roll.
You can take it off.
Yes, you can take it off. But please don't advertise this a lot. I want everybody to want the voters roll.
Why would someone want to have their name taken off the voters roll?
Well, I don't know.
What would be their motivation?
There's a provision in the law. I'm not happy. I don't want to be part of this. I'm immigrating, actually. Why must my name be on your voter roll?
Okay. So
I don't want to be there anymore. Right. I'm going to another country.
Yeah. I also would like to just add a point, Grant.
Sure.
That number that you sent your ID number to, if it were to be of a deceased person, it will indicate that this person is deceased. So there is that information gets updated with the national.
Is Home Affairs working with you on that?
Yes, there's interface between.
That's good news because I'm sure you've had situations where someone comes along with a voter, an ID that's of a deceased person,
correct,
and they're trying to vote twice.
Yeah, so that person, the person that's deceased,
so it shows up.
Population register definitely does. I'm sure.
Have you ever had people arrive with 3 or 4 voters for IDs and say that I'm here to vote on behalf of these people?
No. It's not possible, and that's important.
Chase them out.
And that's the reason why I think, as Matsobane indicated earlier, the issue of electronic voting is not going to happen anytime soon, at least for this election. Maybe in the future, because we want to guard against those that are trying to do multiple voting.
Right.
Because you have to vote in person. We need to see it's you. We need to get your ID number. And by the way, talking about IDs, do you know sometimes people don't use IDs anymore because people are using gadgets. So you might find that you earlier said you almost forgot your ID number. Some people don't even know where their ID is now.
Yeah,
that's true.
So guys, you must go out and look for your ID. Make sure you have it, register, and then keep it, because come voting, you cannot vote if you don't have an ID.
I'm going to stand up for you guys here too, because you really are bending over backwards to try and make it work for us, right? Yeah. But the one thing that you're expected to do, just one little thing, is to find your ID and have it with you when you go to vote.
Yeah.
How hard is that? If you can't even do that, why should we give you a vote?
Absolutely.
Why? And when you think about it, like
basics, right?
The turnaround time for a temporary ID is a couple hours. You just stand in line for a few hours, you'll get your temporary. And I think that works, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
There you go.
It's IEC. Yeah. Agreed.
So apparently a couple of people here. Can a 17-year-old who is turning 18 a few days a week before election day register?
You know what? We encourage all the people that are 16 and above to register today.
Oh, really? 16 and over?
Yes, not 17. Register today. Like I indicated, on your next birthday, and the proclamation is made, you're 18, then you vote.
Right.
So the sooner, the better. Jack, those youngsters,
yes,
get them onto the voters roll.
We're getting all of them.
I almost thought you said Jack was 16.
So
but I think he knows a lot of people that are 16.
So Dusty Knows says here, how can prisoners have the right to vote? Entering the prison system should cut you off from participating. That's not your decision. That was Parliament's decision.
The court made the decision.
But we have to let these prisoners vote, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have to set up these stations inside prisons as well.
Actually, it's actually started today.
Oh my God.
They all have the opportunity. Talking about prisons, I've got something here. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy for you. The prisoners started participating in elections.
Yeah.
And at the time, I did this booklet because we didn't have a smart device like the voter management device, the VMD. So if you are in prison, we had to scan the first VD in your municipality to register you against that. Now, this is old. I didn't bring the VMD with me. Currently, when you get yourself registered from prison, you just provide us with your home address. We register you against the home address of where you actually come from.
Not from the prison. So the prison isn't your home.
No, it's not your home. But come election day, remember, we don't know when the election will be. If you get released from prison, where do you go? Back to where you reside. Then you get your 3 ballots. If it so happens that the election gets proclaimed and on election day you're still in prison, so we deem you to be inside prison. You vote with what we call a Section 24B. you're going to get 3 ballots. Because remember, you don't have freedom to get out of prison, quickly go home and vote and come back.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lot of administration.
Yeah.
Every prisoner from every district. We're going to a lot of trouble for people who don't care about the law. Eh?
Yeah, we really are. And
IEC's a lot of responsibility for looking after assholes who didn't follow the law.
And you've mentioned qualified franchise a couple of times. I think when it comes to prisoners, we genuinely need to have a different conversation about this.
Yeah.
Like if you're serving life, I don't know what you're voting for.
Yeah, what are you voting
like,
for?
What?
Yeah. You're voting for better prison conditions.
Speak to your order.
Golden Miles, Voodoo, and that's what you need.
Yeah.
All right, so someone says here, is there any other way to verify someone's ID? The best way, they say, to do online voting, Yonda says here, is to do facial recognition and fingerprints. We already have those with our phones. Would that be a way to validate votes in the future, maybe?
Well, that will be a possibility. Certainly something that we can look into. But as Matsobane said earlier, penetration in South Africa, and I checked the last time, internet was only 61% penetration. So if you had to give everybody equal opportunities, things like facial recognition relies a lot on the internet.
Sure.
So that you can know exactly immediately who this person is. So if we do not have, that kind of infrastructure, But who knows? In the future, if we have something like low orbiting satellites to give us connectivity, because you don't have to rely on
talking to you, Elon Musk. All right. What's the worst thing about your job coming up, James? You've got so much to do in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
First of all, let this president of ours take his finger out of wherever it is and just give us a date. But what's the worst part of your job?
Well, it's to watch the figures and make sure that everything works. And actually, I'm not getting worried at all, because for the first time since 2021, don't remember 2021 registrations where we had issues with our lovely VMD, but we've introduced what we call offline mode, because we know South Africa better now.
Yeah.
Because we don't always have electricity, and therefore it affects our cell phone coverage. So, and the VMD is a smart device that relies on cellular connectivity.
Right.
So we made it possible that the VMD has got the application on itself. It can operate online, but the moment there's no signal or the signal is degraded, it automatically switches to offline mode.
Okay.
And offline mode operates seamlessly as well. So what my biggest fear, I think, is for somebody who comes like later and say, James, I'm not registered. That's my biggest fear. The people must just register now.
He can't help you if you haven't even registered.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the worst part of your job now, Matsobane, with all these political parties and their funding?
Phew.
They line up outside your office with their hands open.
Gareth, the worst part of my job right now is parties that try by all means to hide the money that they receive, that do not declare.
Crooked.
They try, but the interesting part is, politics is a very interesting profession or game, if you like.
Very much so.
In politics, there are no permanent friends, they said, no permanent enemies.
Yeah.
Half the time, behind closed doors, we agree as the four of us here that we are not going to declare this kind of money. But I don't get nominated on the list to go to parliament, and I become very unhappy, aggrieved, and so forth. And I go to the IEC and say, hey, I've got this evidence. We are dealing with such information. By the way. You know what I mean?
So there's no loyalty among people.
Absolutely.
So you guys, like, you're basically used as some political tool to distract people
to settle disputes.
Can you imagine?
It comes to us. It comes to us, and we follow the law when such information comes through.
And you don't care where it comes from, as long as it's valid information. Once you've verified that and you can proceed with it, you can take these guys on.
Absolutely.
So again, if they're crooked, but they're all in a cabal now, sometimes things don't go well. Good point. I like that. That's a good way of looking at it. All right, what's the best thing about your jobs? Because there are things about this that you guys are contributing in a massive way to the future of this country. You're allowing people to participate in the democratic process. What's the best part of it?
Look, from party funding point of view, we striving for equity, if you like, where even the smaller parties have got access to resources, right? Not only the large parties that have massive support and so forth.
What's the smallest party you've helped?
I imagine it might be like KISS. But there was the Dacha party at some point.
The Dacha party.
Yeah, currently
the soccer party.
Yeah. Currently, the smallest party is the Minority Front with only one member.
It's an appropriate name, right? It's not Rush Bunzi, he's dead.
Well, the wife is now in charge of the party. Yeah,
one member
in the KZN provincial legislature.
Oh my!
That's right.
So that's the smallest party.
Rush Bunzi's wife.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, the other thing, Gareth, that I think is very important to mention is that this legislation, Party Funding Act, creates another fund referred to as the Multi-Party Democracy Fund. The Multi-Party Democracy Fund receives contributions from any member of the society, corporates and so forth, right? And that money then gets distributed to different parties as opposed to, giving to a particular political party. We've seen, a number of big corporates in this country, some big cell phone companies, banks and so forth. Previously, they used to give money directly to the parties.
Yes.
Now they are coming to the commission because there are rules in terms of how that money is distributed and how it must be used.
Well, they trust you more.
Certainly, because we worth the trust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we really are encouraging that, those that would like to make contributions, to this multi-party democracy, let them put money into the multi-party democracy fund. It's as simple as contacting the commission and asking for banking details, which are also accessible online, right? Yeah. To say, I'd like to contribute to the Multi-Party Democracy Fund.
What happens to that money?
The money is distributed among the 15 political parties as indicated. And we use the very same formula that we use to distribute money that is received from the national fiscus.
But it's you guys administering.
It's us that administer. And we have rules in terms of how that money should be used, by the way. You don't really need...
So you don't just run... create havoc and do whatever it is you want.
Certainly not. There are rules. And you must account, by the way. Come the end of the financial year, we want audited financial statements of how that money was utilized.
Aha.
Good. And do the parties comply?
Parties strive to comply, and we're seeing a mixed bag. The biggest challenge... The biggest challenge are unrepresented political parties, which are in hundreds, by the way. A party that is in some corner of Limpopo that, tried to contest local government elections in 2021.
The Jane Malachi Party.
Correct, right? Jane Malachi Party is required to submit audited financial statement, even if their income was zero. They must have that audited and submitted to the commission as a matter of law.
What's your favorite part of it, James?
The favorite part of this election?
It must be really exciting on election day. I mean, you must be tired and exhausted and running around not having any sleep, 10,000 cups of coffee, but it must be exciting to watch those numbers come in.
Yes, absolutely exciting. The excitement also comes from the fact that your voice will be heard. And you know what happens in the media currently? It's sometimes, they say bad publicity can be good publicity. So I think they're making people aware the statements that have been made. So what I'm excited about is the election is again taking center stage, and we are ready with the infrastructure, the technology to make sure that you are able to participate in the election. But we will also, for the first time, as an excitement for this election, remember I welcomed everyone to come to the Rock to observe the electoral process from start to finish. We're going to also have what we call a hybrid Rock. In other words, if you're in Cape Town, cannot visit our national Rock, then you'll be able to log in like you currently do, most of your viewers and listeners, and they'll be able to be part of the electoral process,
You will watch those results come in live.
That's the excitement for me.
People want the most up-to-date possible information on that day, and they can come to you. Don't go to the news organization. They might get it wrong.
But you know what? We also have something there which is brilliant at the IEC in this country. We have APIs, Application Program Interface. So people like yourself, and I'm inviting you, send a request to us. We give you an API. You can have your own results dashboard. We give you the API, and then you'll be able to have the same results that we're publishing there. then you can have your own results on your platforms for your audience.
Fantastic.
That is amazing.
I want to finish with this comment from Sanele, who says the IE sounds like they have their shit together. Never really let us down terribly. Let's play our part and vote the government we deserve in.
Definitely.
All right, Sanele, we're going to give you the last say. So James Aphane, who's the Electoral Operations Manager. Thank you, James. What a pleasure to meet you this morning, and thank you for helping us understand so much that we didn't get right before this, I'll admit. I thought I was pretty up to date, but I don't know nearly as much as...
Yeah, we got schooled today.
We got schooled. And Matsobane Nkoko, it's very nice to meet you too, Matsobane, and thank you for helping us understand that there are processes. And these parties just can't just take money wherever they want.
Sure.
You know. We also want to thank this opportunity to thank you guys for inviting us to your studios.
Sure.
We really enjoyed it, and I hope this is not the last time.
No,
definitely.
Every time you want us to come and clarify something and get the message across, we are more than willing to come over. Thank you.
Yeah, this was a ball. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Everybody, cheers. Have a good